All right, thank you, Kirk. We'll talk to you again same time tomorrow. We are coming up to the 4 o'clock news with Tony Tario in a moment. After the news, we are going to speak to Councillor Theo Zographos, who may or may not be descended from Greek people. Anyway, he's a councillor in the city of Monash, and he reckons the IBAC report today, which has unveiled enormous corruption in the city of Casey, means that all councils should be scrapped. 133
On 3AW and across Victoria, this is Drive with Tom Elliott.
I know, is it time to get rid of councils once and for all? I've backed amalgamating them, like having maybe 6 or 7 or 8 councils across Victoria. You know, have one super council for the city of Melbourne and then maybe one for Geelong, and then just divide the state into 3 or 4 or maybe 5 zones. But the allegations against Casey councillors, 2 former mayors, one of whom is Sam Aziz, it's alleged by IBAC that like they were given suitcases full of cash by property developer John Woodman. Now, you know, councillors, believe it or not, don't actually get paid that much. Some regional councils, you only get maybe $30,000 or $40,000 a year. So if a property developer is going to chuck hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars at you just to rezone some land, you can see how a councillor might decide to accept the money. Anyway, in a moment, we're going to speak to a councillor from the city of Monash who says, yes, it is time for his job and every other councillor's job to be abolished and we get rid of councils. 133 drive at 3aw.com.au. Angela, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Tom.
Yes, Angela.
I haven't heard anything about if these councillors, the mayor and that, will they be charged for accepting bribes?
Yes,
Is there going to be an investigation, or will they just get to keep the money and walk away scot-free?
No, that won't happen. So the way I understand it works, IBAC maybe I'm wrong. IBAC prepares effectively what amounts to a brief of evidence, saying we have investigated this, a bit like the police do, and we think there's a prima facie case against, in this case, former Casey mayors Sam Aziz and Jeff Ablett. It is up to the DPP, I believe, then to actually mount a prosecution against them. But the good thing is most of the work has been done by IBAC. So my guess is that they certainly won't get to keep the money, or if they've spent it, they'll have to repay it. And they probably, although I don't know, probably will be charged with something. We'll find out. Thank you, Angela. And to be fair, I mean, the state government has said there's 34 recommendations to try and reduce corruption in councils. The government has said all of these will be considered, but it also points out the clear position of the government is that the role of local councils in significant planning decisions will be reduced. So the days of councils being able to rezone enormous parcels of land or whatever, it sounds like the state government is going to take that power away from them. Eddie, hello.
G'day, Tom. Just talking about Ballarat and Lake Windaroo and that sort of thing, there's a beautiful place on the water there. It's Ballarat Yacht Club. And if you go there, it's just like you're in another world. You wouldn't even know you're in Ballarat. And it's cold. I know it's cold. I work in Ballarat. I'm in the building game. I'm a waterproofer. And nothing dries up there in winter, I'll tell you that. You need a ripping heat gun or something like that. But in summer and spring, beautiful place to be. And, you know, when it's stinking hot in Melbourne, it's still not bad up there in summer. And, you know, and my mate, he's been up there for 20 years, and every winter he goes, when it gets to summer, I'll move it out.
He never does. So what people go and sail like little sailing yachts on Lake Windaroo, do they?
Yeah, and you see the rowers and all that. It's a beautiful place. And around Lake Windaroo, it's like when you're down South Yarra along the old mansions and all the houses that run along Studley Park there. Well, they've got a place like that up there. It's beautiful. The houses, unbelievable.
Righto. All right. So you can watch people rowing on Lake Windaroo. You can sail a dinghy. You can catch a trout. You can observe the swans. You can eat in a nice restaurant. And you'll be cold. Well, there you go. That's Ballarat, TAC's Top Tourism Town Award winner. All right, our next guest is a councillor at the city of Monash, Councillor Theo Zographos. Good afternoon.
Hello, Tom. Hey, Tom, if we get rid of councils and I change my name, I want to be known as the artist formerly known as councillor.
Right, we'll just give you a symbol after that. Well, is it time? I mean, the IBAC has only really investigated the city of Casey and in particular one property developer and 2 former mayors. But do you think this sort of corruption is widespread?
Look, I don't know. I don't believe it is. I haven't seen that in my experience. But what this reinforces for me, Tom, is my long-standing position that Australia is overgoverned and we've got too much duplication, too much cost duplication particularly. So I think this is a golden opportunity for the state government to seriously consider getting rid of councils in Victoria so that we can save on costs that pay down the national debt and stop that duplication.
So all the things the councils currently do, like town planning and local libraries and swimming pools and repairing the footpath and that sort of thing, would you just have the state government take the responsibility for all of that?
We have to look at what are the councils currently doing. If I look at Monash, for example, Monash does not pick up the rubbish. We've got a commercial operator that does that. We don't fix most of the roads. We subcontract out the footpaths, etc. So really, when you look at it, what you'd be doing is you'd have either it's a central state government department or you have a number of departments that specialise in, say, planning, libraries, roads, that then tender out for multiple councils, or what are today councils, but in the future might be geographies, and then you'd save on those contracts. You have to, as you said earlier, you can't have one council town hall being built for $110 million and then 5 kilometres away another council has their own town hall. That's just too much. It's too much taxpayer and public money being wasted.
So what about the concept of sort of local democracy, that each little area is a bit different from the next one and that, local democratically elected councils have to reflect that?
Definitely, there's definitely merit to that, and I've spent my whole adult life in local government, so I can relate. But there's a difference between someone cutting the ribbon at opening a new kindergarten and the enormous expenditure that every Victorian is paying for. So whether you've got some sort of role where there is a democratically elected committee or council, but you don't have that enormous cost waste and that over duplication of government, that might be a model, but you might also have that democratic process via your local MP, state or federal, and that's where the accountability and that government oversight will sit.
You say you spent your whole adult life working in local government. If your suggestion is followed and councils are abolished...
Not my day job.
Oh, yeah, true. But would you miss it or would you do something else in your spare time?
Well, I would definitely miss... dealing with constituents and residents, but I might do that in a different way in the future. But I guess it's all about, for me, Tom, and I said this in the chamber the other night, we were talking about the voice, and I said, I'm an Australian first. So it's about what can we do, those of us in local council, put our self-interest aside. What can we do to pay down the national debt? That's what I'm thinking about. I think this is a very serious consideration. And as the Premier said, planning is one decision. There are many other decisions that I think could be better be put in the experts. So planners are experts. I'm not a planner, right? So I'm just a layman making decisions on planning. But it makes sense to have the experts. And when you put it all together, I think there's a very serious argument. And you can't get rid of the state or federal levels because that will take a referendum. And we know, we know that passing a referendum is near impossible unless you have, enormous goodwill on either side of the argument. So that's where I'm coming from.
All right, thank you for your time. Councillor Theo Zagrafos there from the city of Monash. We just get rid of them all. Just let the state government do all the things the councils do. Like, rubbish removal amazes me. Like where I live in town, we have 3 bins. Where we go on holiday, sometimes I've noticed they've only had 2 bins. Like, why have different rubbish? If it's so important to recycle, why does one council say you've got to separate your glass and another council say it doesn't matter, chuck it all in the same bin? Just have one system that works across the entire state. Or town planning. Why does every little council have to have different town planning rules? The Mayor of Glen Ira Council has called in. Councillor Jim McGee, good afternoon.
G'day, Tom, and to all your listeners. Tom, very disappointing, the IBAC report this morning, but I think people need to take into consideration we're talking about 2 councillors out of about 150 and 1 council out of 79. I've been a councillor for 15 years, Tom, and the beginning of your show it horrified me that people would think that councillors are corrupt. Tom,
Well, but I'm sorry, but it's front page news today. You've got an IBAC report.
To say that.
Well, no, but sorry, but you've got two mayors of Casey who allegedly have taken $1.2 million in bribes.
Disgraceful.
Well, and that's one that they've found. I mean, why wouldn't there be others?
Well, Tom, where are the others? I've been doing this job for 15 years. I know a lot of councillors, a lot of mayors, and I would put my hand in my heart and say I don't know any of them that are corrupt. Tom, the problems in local
Well, you do. You know
government
Sam Aziz and you know
I've never met them. I know their names.
Jeff Ablett.
I've never met them. Tom, it was a disgraceful thing what happened at Casey, and that's being sorted out now. But don't tarnish all council and all councillors as being corrupt. And most that councillors are here to do the right thing. I've been doing this for a long time. I work bloody hard at being a councillor. I love being a councillor. I love building stuff for my city. I love listening to my community. And Tom, it saddens me that the reputation that councillors get when most of our problems on council are actually put onto us by state government taking money away from us every single day in their cost shifting to us, which means we rely more and more on our residents for rates.
Yeah, but
okay,
but if you look at the simple things, why do we have 79 different systems of town planning? Why does every second?
Don't.
Well, we do.
Tom, we don't. No, we don't, Tom. Victoria's got one planning scheme.
Well, I can tell you it's interpreted very differently in different councils.
Tom, let me finish. We have one planning scheme for the whole of Victoria. Within that planning scheme, each city or each council has what they call the local government planning scheme, which looks to individually at sites within their cities. And we've all got different heritage areas. We've both got major activity centres, and they're all treated slightly different. That's the differences within the planning scheme. But there's one planning scheme for the whole of Victoria.
Yeah, right. But I mean, go see this. I was able to paint my house where I live, whatever the colour I wanted, and I had this sort of mural painted. A friend I know who lives in a different council said, I'd like to do that too. And the town planning people in his council said, no, that's absolutely forbidden. So it is different.
There must be an overlay over that home, either in an area where there's a heritage overlay.
Right.
I can paint my house any colour I like. But Tom, really, local government, we need local government. We need those local members. Remember, Tom, councillors are mums and dads and people and individuals. We're not professionals. We do a really good job, and we want to change our city and make it better.
I'm not saying that no one works hard or anything. I'm just questioning: do we need different rubbish collection systems? Do we need different town planning systems? Is there perhaps a ton of
Sure, that's a totally different conversation. And I've been leading a conversation for about a year now, and we need to look at different forms of government. You look at Brisbane, one council, 1.3 million people, 130 different suburbs, one council. In Melbourne, 150,000 people living in my city, and the next city has another 150,000, and we've got two CEOs, two managers.
Yeah, exactly. So it sounds like you're saying that amalgamation wouldn't be a bad idea.
Not amalgamation, but a conversation about how do we make it better. But by simply going out and saying, get rid of councillors, they're all corrupt, it really saddens me.
Well, I'm sorry, that was a councillor at another city of Monash, who was saying that. Anyway, thank you, Councillor.
He should resign tomorrow.
All right, Councillor Jim McGee there, the Mayor of Glen Ira. Well, he did sort of let slip at the end. Like every council has its CEO who these days are paid $500,000 and they've got their army of bureaucrats and whatever. If you had fewer councils, you'd have far fewer overpaid council CEOs. Now, there's a way to save some money. 133 693